I am a 24-year-old woman and I am getting married soon. I have many older siblings, all of whom are significantly older than me. I have a 33-year-old sister, a 35-year-old brother, and 31-year-old twin brothers. They are all married, and when I was still a teenager, they all decided to have child-free weddings, so I did not attend any of their ceremonies. Let's start from the beginning. My eldest sister was the first to get married and she decided she did not want children at her wedding. After she made this choice, my other siblings also decided to follow suit. When my eldest brother got married, I was only 10 years old. I guess they did not want a 10-year-old at the wedding, but I was still very sad. I really liked the woman who married him, and not being there to see it all hurt me. Then, when another brother got married, I was 12 years old. I understand they might not want a 12-year-old there, but I was always a good child and he is my brother. My sister's wedding was when I was 15. At first, she did not want to set a no-children rule at her wedding, but the rest of the family convinced her, saying that weddings without children being a mess were great, so she set the age limit to 16. I asked her if she could make an exception for me because I was almost 16, but she sternly said no. She told me that if she made an exception for me, she would have to for other children, and that wouldn't be fair. I was really angry. I shouted that it was unfair that I couldn't attend any of my siblings' weddings. My parents did not like my reaction and they punished me. When my last brother got married, I was 17. I knew it would be a child-free wedding and I didn't feel uneasy this time. I just sent a simple congratulatory message. My parents were upset that I didn't celebrate harder, but I was just in my room with the person I am now planning to marry. Now it's my turn to get married, and I've decided not to invite any of my siblings. I felt excluded on their big days, and now I want them to know how that feels. When they realized they didn't receive an invitation to my wedding, they all came to ask why. I told them straight out, you didn't want me at your weddings, so I don't want you at mine. I explained how hurt I was not to witness their weddings and said they should understand that feeling. They tried to justify it by saying there was alcohol at their weddings and they didn't want children around. I told them I just wanted to attend the wedding itself, the party wasn't important to me. But then my mom started yelling, saying how unfair I was. She dreamed of having all her children together on such a special day. The irony of her words did not escape me, but I stood my ground. I decided not to invite them, feeling my decision was justified. Before I share an update on the situation, let me tell you the general consensus I got from the top comments. People generally believe I am not wrong, and they find my siblings' choice to exclude me harsh and unnecessary. The excuse they used to explain why children were not suitable for drinking at such events was seen as just an excuse. It is not difficult to prevent children from being exposed to alcohol at family gatherings. Some pointed out that while it is acceptable to have an adult-only wedding for various reasons, including the potential disturbance or additional costs caused by young guests, excluding a close relative is unheard of. I am not just a child, I am their sister. Being excluded from such an important family milestone is not only inappropriate but deeply hurtful. This highlights the strange and unwelcome distance between me and my siblings and my mother, making it difficult for me to feel close to them or my mother. People suggested that I should firmly convey my decision to my mother, and then if she insists on trying to change my mind, end the conversation. If my mother really wants all her children to celebrate together, she had countless opportunities to ensure I was included in my siblings' weddings. But she chose not to do so, did not stand up for me, and then missed the chance to create those united family memories she now craves. A commenter aptly pointed out that my mother's current attempt to make me change my wedding plans is like her missing the opportunity to discipline my siblings when I was excluded, just like I was grounded for expressing disappointment. They suggested that, in a way, I am now not allowing her to participate in certain pre-wedding activities, such as trying on the wedding dress or the bachelorette party, as a fair comparison. Moreover, the logic behind the alcohol excuse was questioned. If avoiding contact with alcohol was the real concern, why did the age limit happen to increase just enough to exclude me at 15? I was below the 16 limit and still considered too young for alcohol at 17, despite the legal drinking age being 18. The inconsistency here highlights a deliberate choice to exclude me rather than any real concern for my well-being. Someone suggested reminding my mother that if she wants a gathering that includes all her children, she should organize and pay for it herself. Her failure to support me when I was excluded from past family gatherings, coupled with punishing me for being upset about it, is seen as a significant parental mistake. It is clear that I deserve better treatment, and my siblings need to be held accountable for their exclusionary behavior by missing my wedding. Finally, amidst all this family drama, I received words of congratulations and encouragement. Despite the challenges, the support from others reaffirmed my decision and reminded me that what I am doing on my wedding day is right and not wrong at all. If you are considering inviting your entire family, it is crucial to remember that your parents have done nothing wrong in this situation. However, if your mother or any other family member continues to complain or yell at you about your wedding decisions, you might want to reconsider their wedding invitations. It is deeply regrettable that you have to experience such behavior from siblings and parents. If I were in your shoes, and my family was causing trouble because of my wedding choices, and they never apologized for their past behavior, I would consider reducing contact with them to a minimum, and I might even stop talking to them altogether if they continue to cause problems. Congratulations on your upcoming wedding, and I hope your marriage is filled with happiness and that you fully enjoy your ceremony and celebration. Now, let me update you on the situation. The day after I shared my story, I had a conversation with my family. I told them that the only condition under which I would invite them to the wedding was if they gave a detailed explanation of their behavior, otherwise, they would not receive an invitation. There was an awkward silence and some confused looks, and then they finally shared the truth with me. It turned out that I was actually my sibling's cousin, raised by my uncle, who is my father's brother, after my own father passed away. My family did not know who my mother was because I was young and needed a lot of care. I was considered a cousin rather than a sibling, which led them to keep their distance from me. My brothers admitted to sometimes being resentful towards me. My parents felt ashamed for not telling me this sooner. The whole situation made my cousin uncomfortable, and I decided to leave. In the end, my partner and I chose to elope. We realized that a traditional wedding was not what we truly wanted. What mattered most was being with those closest to us, so we celebrated in a small, intimate ceremony with only a few friends. We decided to save the money that could have been spent on a large wedding and travel to our dream country. My parents were uneasy about us not having a big celebration, but honestly, I didn't mind. The day was about us and what we wanted. I was shocked by some people's reactions to our decision, with some messages criticizing us for being too immature to get married. But learning that I was actually their cousin did not justify my family's behavior. They did not want me at their weddings but insisted on attending mine, which was extremely unfair. My parents are now acting more problematic, not having told me about my true sibling relationship. My mother repeatedly bursts out, wanting all her children together at my wedding, highlighting the selfishness and inconsistency in their attitudes. They seem more interested in a free party than respecting my feelings and choices. From now on, I am considering reducing contact with them further. Moreover, revelations about my real father or my uncle, and this part of family history being kept secret from me for so long, erased many precious memories and left me with a biased view of my past. Now, I have to make extra efforts to understand my family history, which has been made more difficult by my parents' decision to turn it into a shameful secret rather than sharing it openly and lovingly. It's really hard to hear about Opie's situation. It seems her mother wanted all her children to attend Opie's wedding, but she herself did not make an effort to let Opie attend her siblings' weddings, and then came the shocking revelation that she was actually a cousin, not a direct sibling, but no one thought it was necessary to tell her earlier. However, but you can feel that Opie may not have felt as loved or valued as her siblings. It seems her parents might have viewed raising her as a charitable act, implying that she should be grateful and that she owes them something. However, the reality is that Opie owes them nothing, just like her siblings. Although her parents may have tried to treat all the children equally, it is clear that they have different feelings on an emotional level. The mental gymnastics her parents must go through to justify not telling her the truth about her family situation are shocking. They may have thought that keeping her in the dark would prevent things from becoming strange, but instead, it led to a situation where she felt excluded and despised by her siblings. The whole scenario is absurd. Now let's move on to another story about a tricky family situation. I refused to pay the taxes on a house that my parents fully paid off, where my 43-year-old brother, fully employed and living there with his children. Am I wrong? Both of my parents are retired and receiving their Social Security and pensions. My brother occupies 3 of the 4 bedrooms in their house, 1 for himself and the other 2 for his children. He pays $1,200 a month in rent to my parents, even though the going rate for a 3-bedroom house in their area is at least $2,300. After my parents paid off the house, they started asking my sister and me to help with the property taxes. They told me that I would inherit 25% ownership of the house, my brother would get 50%, and my sister the remaining 25% after they pass away. Clearly, there are no favorites in this family, right? When I asked how much they needed so I could pay my share of the taxes, my mother announced that she and my dad wanted to fully retire and hoped that my brother, sister, and I would take over the tax payments. I wondered why the rent my brother pays was not considered sufficient, as he has never moved out and has always depended on my parents to get through life. My mom defended him by saying he helps with errands, then suggested I should reduce the child support I pay to my ex-wife, with whom I have 2 sons. Let me get this straight, they suggest I should give less to my own children so that my brother and his children can live more comfortably, or they think I should take money from my retirement account, facing penalties, just to continue supporting my brother's lifestyle. I just can't support my brother like my parents have for years. I have my own family and bills to worry about. Let's see what others think about this situation. Some pointed out that it makes no sense to make someone who does not live in the house and does not own it responsible for paying property taxes. These taxes should be the responsibility of my parents who own the house. If they can't afford the taxes, there are options like downsizing, which is common for parents whose children have grown up and moved out. Another option is for my brother, who lives in the house, to contribute more to the costs. This person suspects that they will soon be asked to help pay for repairs and maintenance, while being lured into paying with the promise of inheritance. They firmly believe that I am not wrong here. Another person shared that they and their sister suggested their parents downsize many years ago to make their retirement easier, but their parents refused because they were too focused on supporting my brother and his children. Now that the house is paid off, they are shocked that their parents are asking for money, especially when my brother should contribute more, considering the space he uses and the number of working hours he chooses. My brother pays far less than he should, and I, despite being disabled, work full-time to ensure my children are well taken care of. My love for my mom is strong, but she cannot set appropriate boundaries. She is used to indulging my brother, and this is problematic. She seems willing to let me provide less support for my brother and his children, which I cannot accept. Another person commented that they also did not want to be involved in paying taxes. They suggested being prepared to lose their inheritance rights because being responsible for these taxes is unfair. They could not understand why they should pay taxes for a house that is already paid off, especially because they do not want to deal with the IRS because of a brother who cannot manage his responsibilities. They even told their parents to remove them from the will because they did not want to be involved in this situation. Finally, someone from the UK was confused about property taxes and asked for clarification. They understood that in places like California, even if you have paid off your mortgage, you still owe property taxes, which are calculated as a percentage of the assessed value of your house. This means that if your house is worth $500,000, you would have to pay about $6,250 in property taxes each year. Property tax rates can vary greatly from one state to another. Moving on to another story, I gave the bounty hunter the whereabouts of my brother because he wrongly used my address as his bail bond documents and then skipped his court date. Was I wrong? My brother is 35 years old and has been in and out of prison his whole life. He was recently arrested again and managed to make bail one night while I was having dinner. There was a knock on my door. I opened it and found a man in a bulletproof vest holding a piece of paper, looking confused. He asked if my brother was here now. I had to tell him that my brother is indeed my brother, but he does not live at my address. After I told the man at the door about my brother missing his court date and the bondsman losing a lot of money, I provided an address where my brother often hangs out. It turned out that they found him there, and now he is back in prison with no chance of bail. No bail bondsman is willing to take a risk on him, and our family or friends cannot afford the bail money. I certainly will not provide any help, and it seems that after all this, he will stay in prison until the trial. My decision to provide his location caused an uproar in my family. My mother, sister, and grandmother have been constantly messaging me, saying how terrible what I did to my brother is. I started to feel a little guilty, but I also knew I couldn't just sit back and potentially face legal consequences because of his lies. Obviously, all the trouble my brother is facing now is due to his own actions. My family seems to think that he can indefinitely evade the law, or that it is acceptable to involve me in his problems without my consent. They have always treated him as someone who can do no wrong, never punishing him when he was young. Now they are upset with me for not being able to protect him from the consequences of his actions, as they always did in the past. This situation always favored him, and our family refuses to acknowledge any of his mistakes. It's a pattern that has existed since we were young, and now that they can't intervene, they are looking for a scapegoat. I don't know why he is always favored, even when his behavior clearly requires disciplinary action. Dealing with a brother who has only brought stress, financial pressure, and emotional turmoil for years is exhausting, but it is crucial that he finally takes responsibility for his actions, especially when they are illegal and he continues to make these choices. It's time for him to face the consequences without our parents constantly bailing him out. I took a step similar to others who had a troublesome brother. After years of dealing with his problems, they saw their brother go to jail and finally reform. This gives me hope that maybe my brother will finally learn a lesson from this experience. My mother has spent an astonishing amount of money on my brother's legal issues over the years. Now she can no longer help him, and somehow the responsibility has shifted to me. Our mother always protected him from the consequences of his actions, but now she can't, and apparently it's my fault. It's as if this situation is a necessary intervention for our mother to stop indulging him, which only makes her problems worse, her financial situation, her mental health, and her relationship with me. It's as if this situation is a necessary intervention for our mother to stop indulging him, which only exacerbates her issues, her financial situation, her mental health, and her relationship with me. Now let's move on to another story. I provided a bounty hunter with my brother's whereabouts because he mistakenly used my address for his bail bond documents and then skipped his court date. Was I wrong? My brother is 35 years old and has spent his life in and out of prison. He was recently arrested again and managed to post bail one evening while I was having dinner. There was a knock on my door. I opened it and found a man in a bulletproof vest holding a piece of paper, looking quite puzzled. He asked if my brother was here at the moment. I had to tell him that my brother is indeed my brother, but he does not live at my address. After I informed the man at the door about my brother missing his court appearance and the bail bondsman losing a significant amount of money, I provided an address where my brother often hangs out. It turned out they found him there, and now he is back in prison with no chance of bail. No bail bondsman is willing to take a risk on him, and neither our family nor friends can afford the bail money. I certainly won't provide any assistance, and it seems after all this, he will remain in prison until the trial. My decision to give up his location caused an uproar in my family. My mother, sister, and grandmother have been constantly messaging me, saying how terrible what I did to my brother was. I started to feel a bit guilty, but I also knew I couldn't just stand by and potentially face legal consequences because of his lies. Clearly, all the trouble my brother is facing now is due to his own actions. My family seems to think he can indefinitely evade the law, or that it's acceptable to involve me in his problems without my consent. They've always treated him as if he could do no wrong, never punishing him when he was young. Now they're upset with me for not being able to protect him from the consequences of his actions, something they used to do all the time. This situation always favored him, and our family refuses to acknowledge any of his mistakes. It's a pattern that's been there since we were kids, and now that they can't intervene, they're looking for a scapegoat. I don't know why he's always been the favorite, even when his behavior clearly warranted disciplinary action. Dealing with a brother who has only brought stress, financial strain, and emotional turmoil for years is exhausting, but it's crucial that he finally takes responsibility for his actions, especially when they're illegal and he continues to make these choices. It's time for him to face the consequences without our parents constantly bailing him out. I took a step similar to others who had a troublesome brother, and after years of dealing with his issues, they saw their brother go to jail and eventually turn his life around. This gives me hope that maybe my brother will finally learn a lesson from this experience. My mother has spent an astonishing amount of money on my brother's legal issues over the years. Now that she can no longer help him, somehow the responsibility has shifted to me. Our mother always protected him from the consequences of his actions, but now she can't, and apparently, it's my fault. It's as if this situation is a necessary intervention for our mother to stop indulging him, which only makes her problems worse, her financial situation, her mental health, and her relationship with me.